Hi guys, Dustin Apple aka White River Rambo, and this is Bloodline Bowfishing TV. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about lights once again. Not so much what lights to pick or use, but how to install them. Okay. First and foremost, we need to add a little disclaimer here. I am not an electrician. I've probably only wired 4 or 5 things. I know just enough to get me in trouble. All right. So if you feel uncomfortable with it, seek a little bit more professional help than what you're going to get here. However, I do believe this is some fairly sound advice, and I wouldn't be sharing it if I didn't feel comfortable. So first off, you want to make sure that your lights are properly mounted and solid. Okay. As you see, I've made a good solid frame with these so they're not loose, vibrating, bouncing down the road. Hopefully my trailer will take some of the vibration, but mounting a light solid will keep the road rash off of them. Okay. Driving on the highway and across rough water will absolutely beat the living crap out of your lights, and that's something that you really want to take into consideration. Let's climb up in here, and I'm going to show you how I wired Miss Lizzie. Now, once again, I prefer to run LEDs, and unfortunately nobody can get the LEDs that I have because they were special order and the company quit making them. So I do apologize for that. On a generator. Generators are kind of a big topic because there's loads of guys out there who want to just do it as cheap as possible. And honestly, you can go and for, let's say $200, get a generator big enough to run what I'm running, okay? However, it's going to be very noisy, very loud. It's going to vibrate the boat. You're going to have to yell over it. Everybody around you is going to hear that. My personal preference and recommendation is that you spend most of your money, if not, a good portion of your lights, your money should go towards a quality inverter generator. Now, I've got a Yamaha 3500 here. Actually, this is a 3000 IS EB boost, so it is capable of running 3500 watts. But no matter what generator you buy, you want to figure out what kind of load you're going to put on it, and you only want to run your generator about 60%. Okay. Once you keep your generator below 60%, the decibel levels are much lower. It runs cooler, it runs more efficient, it sips the fuel versus using it, at a higher rate. And I highly recommend you figuring out how much power you're planning on using, and then upping it up a little bit, because we all know your setup today is going to change probably before you get it installed, and then next year you're going to add something else. So plan, for this, and buy a little bit bigger generator. I know it costs quite a bit. However, you don't have to buy a Yamaha or Honda anymore. There's lots of manufacturers out there. I've heard a lot of good stuff with the new Harbor Freight generators. The new inverters are supposed to be really nice, and the price tag they got on them are just less than half of what I paid for this. So without further ado, let's get into some wiring. As you can see, I use my big giant round plug here. Okay, this is a 30 amp plug versus these two. Both these combined are 20 amps. It's just a 3-prong, would be totally fine if you didn't have the vibration factor and all this. The great thing about a 30 amp is it twists and locks into place. You can see these teeth are kind of stepped, so once I put it in there, I can give it a little twist and it's locked into position. Okay, never have to worry about it falling out or shorting or having a failure there. Now, wire size. Wire size is going to be very specific to your boat, okay? You need to know the volts that you're running, the amount of amps and load that you're putting on the wire itself, and then you need to know how far you're running it. Once again, up it just a little bit, okay? If you figure you're running 10 amps worth of lights, figure it off, say 12 amps. If you're running your lights 15 feet, well, it may not be 15 feet. It may be, 5 foot around this bend and 5 foot around that bend, and so maybe it's 20. So when you use online wire charts, it never hurts to go with just a little bit bigger wire, or a lot bigger wire if you want to. You can never have too big a wire, okay? The reason there are online wire charts and wire size is important because wire has to be big enough to carry the load through it. If wire is too small, then it's going to get hot. If you have heat issues, it's only going to get worse. You're going to burn something down. You're going to throw breakers. It's not going to be pleasant. If you have larger wire, and say, that vibration over a handful of years breaks a few wires, then you still got enough wire to handle it, and hopefully it'll last a little bit longer. The downside of that, the bigger the wire, the harder it is to work with, okay? The bigger the wire, the price goes way up really quickly, okay? So you got to ride that line, all right? But for outdoor use, you want a multi-strand wire. You don't want solid copper. Solid copper is not vibration resistant, okay? You want multi-strand, like extension cord, okay? I said like, but yeah, just be careful with that one. We all do it, but if you're going to use extension cord, make sure you're using a really heavy-duty extension cord with a good outer covering. Don't use lamp wire. That's a no-no. This wire itself is a 10-3 trunk, okay? This is intended for outdoor landscaping, and I bought it at Lowe's, okay? It come in like a 50-foot thing, and wasn't terrible price-wise, but so 10-3, what's that mean? That means you've got 3 wires in there, and they're all 10 gauge, okay? So you need a positive and a neutral and a ground, all right? Make sure you use a ground circuit when you're on your boat, all right? Electricity travels the path of least resistance, and you never want it to be your hull, okay? You're just asking for trouble, and it's going to be loads of issues if you don't use that ground circuit. You can get by with it on other things, but in a boat, it's absolutely mandatory. Don't forget to use that third ground circuit, all right? Let's go up front, and I'll show you how I wire the lights individually. Okay, so you'll have to excuse, we got a little bit tight quarters here, but here's my trunk, okay? Here's a 4-inch junction box, and I split it off, all right? And the reason I split it off was so we had smaller wire to work with. Both of those wires will feed both of these switch panels. Now, we'll go into my accessory hatch here, and so I've got 4 switches, and now all this is an outdoor covering. You take this off, and it actually looks like indoor, just like in your house, switches. But these outdoor coverings have a waterproof gasket around them, and much more weatherproof, especially when it's in here next to my fish barrel. So each switch has split my boat up into coordinates. So my bottom side here, this is my port side lights. So back port side, okay, port side front corner on the bow. All right, here's my starboard side bow corner, and the starboard back corner. All right, that's all 4 of my switches. Now, those 2 wires come in, and each one of them feeds each box. And then those wires are split to feed each switch. All 4 of these switches come out of this junction box and go into more 4-inch junction boxes. Let's go over here to this one, since I can get the video of it just a little bit better. So as you can see, this top one here, that's my feed line. So this comes from my switches and goes in, and then it splits, and I've got 3 drops. Okay, this is a drop, and both these 2 are drops. Now the reason I did this next step is just a little bit different. I use waterproof plug-ins, and I use the 3-wire ones because, you know, once again, you've got to use that ground circuit. But I bought these on Amazon. They are acceptable for 120 volts. The reason I did that, all right, each one of those plugs wires 2 light fixtures. If I have a light fixture go down, I can come here and unplug one of them, and I've still got the other one working, and it does not affect the rest of the circuit at all. I've got, in this setup, I've got 4 boxes and 3 drops off of each one, and then each drop runs 2 light fixtures. So that's a lot of lights. I would hate to have to come back here and throw one switch, and then I lose an entire quadrant of my boat for lights for the rest of the night. So with this setup, I can keep running all night, even if I drop a light or 2. Now, as far as the wiring itself goes, once again, you know, my trunk was 10.3, but these drops are 14.3. You know, a lot less power on each one individually versus all of them together for the trunk. So my wire connections are crimp connections, heat shrink connections, and then to keep it all nice and tight and you know, a little bit more weather resistant, we went ahead and put some quality electrical tape over it, and then, you know, kind of try to keep everything zip tied into place. That is an automotive wire loom that you know, they work pretty good if you've got a place to punch them. But yeah, that's how I wired my lights. Well guys, thanks for joining me today. You know, I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit from the discussion on how to install your bow fishing lights on your boat. Now, once again, I am not a professional. However, there's no better community of professionals than the community of Bloodline Bowfishing TV's Facebook page. If you guys ever need any help with anything involving your bow fishing rig, whether it be light setups, wiring, generator selection, join us at Bloodline Bowfishing TV's Facebook page, and we'll get you sorted out. As always, don't forget to wear those personal flotation devices, and we will see you on the water.